This one is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel, the Angel Geronimo editions at 18:20 hours GMT on Sunday the 15th of January 2023. Now, today's Sunday newspaper, Sunday Times, its cover price is £3.50 UK, has got the front page piece. Johnson credit facility worth £8,000. The this is another very elaborate without going into the details. Essentially, what this is that Johnson can do anything. Johnson can break any law. Johnson can lie any number of times, and Johnson can steal and fabricate and scam and defraud. I mean, that is if any additional proof was needed, that is the evidence. That this is coming out, and Johnson has not been held to account. And the details are actually showing that Johnson has not been held to account, that they found any number of excuses for Johnson to break the law. Now, there is a piece in the East End, the two words East End of London, actually, in the sense that these two words are used in there could not be a more clear evidence of criminality. The language, stately home, and Eastern found nearest Constance Martin and her African Caribbean origin boyfriend, Mark Gordon. They have been missing for 10 days, it says. We'll come to find the reason why they're saying that missing aristocrat went from stately home to Eastern Terrace. What is the reference for to Eastern Terrace? What council is involved here? It is Ilford, wasn't it? It is unclear exactly when and how Martin and Gordon first met, but by 2016 they had set up home together. It is believed she was estranged from her family as a result of the relationship. Though she continued to have access to money from a multi-million pound trust fund at Seahore and Company, the UK's oldest private bank in Ilford. So it would be Redbridge, wouldn't it? Ilford is in Redbridge. So in Ilford, the couple lived in a small terraced house. Now it's not East End, is it? Ilford is not part of the East End. It is part of Essex. In Ilford, the couple lived in a small terraced house. They were mysterious, said a neighbor, and kept to themselves. They were evicted from the Ilford house by August 2020. They were living on the Cold Harbour estate, southeast London, which is Lambeth in Brixton. Once again, they rarely engaged with others in the estate, although shouting was sometimes heard. Neighbors said they thought Gordon did not work, staying in the house all day, while Martin had odd jobs. It is believed the tenancy agreement was in her name. One neighbor said it looked as if they might have been living between two places, regularly returning with lots of bags after periods away. They were not paying rent. After hearing in court, they were evicted in August 2022, reportedly leaving thousands of pounds worth of damage, with sightings of a partially collapsed ceiling and smoke damage. What the couple did next is unknown. Let's continue with what the couple did next is unknown until January 5th, that is this month, 10 days ago actually, today is the 15th, when they broke down near junction 4 of the M61. The next day, the Greater Manchester Police issued a plea for them to return, saying evidence suggested Martin had recently given birth and neither her nor the baby have been assessed by medical professionals. Last week, Detective Chief Inspector Rob Huddleston of Essex Police said, "We do not know, we do not wish to impose ourselves for any reason other than to make sure the baby is alive and well. The inquiry is now being handled by the Metropolitan Police. Martin is not believed to have had any contact with her family since she disappeared, but a police source said that they had concerns that with access to significant financial resources, she and Gordon could continue to evade them indefinitely." The additional reporting by Simon Trump and David Byers. David Byers. So let's go back to the beginning of this piece, which is misheaded. Constance Martin's life started in the sweeping corridors, drawing rooms, and 5,000-acre parkland of Crishall House, Dorset. The daughter of a landed family with links to the royals, she has a talent for acting, a flair for language, and it appeared a glittering future ahead of her. But she turned her back on champagne parties and holidays at ski resorts and is now being sought by police along with Mark Gordon, a man 13 years her senior. In recent years, the couple had moved between terraced home and rundown flats in the s- satellite boroughs of London, living reclusively, rarely seen by neighbors, and repeatedly evicted. On the evening of January the 5th, they left the M61 in Greater Manchester on foot, a newborn baby in Martin's arms. Behind them, abandoned on the hard shoulder, was their burning car, which they had bought only 6 days before, which they had bought only 6 days before. They made their way south, paying for taxis in cash, using fake names in hotel. Last Saturday at 9 a.m., they were seen near Out Court. Released by police, Martin seemed to be carrying the baby under a red shawl. She was then spotted a number of times 20 miles away in Colchester, and police have since checked every hotel and bed and breakfast. Officers believe the family took a 70-mile taxi in East Ham tube station in Newham, East London, where they were captured on CCTV between 11:45 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. They have not been seen since. The couple are believed to have access to significant means thanks to Martin's family wealth. Police appealed for them to come forward to monitor and baby can be checked by doctors. Constance Dorothy Martin was born in 1987 to one of England's most prominent aristocratic families. She and her brothers, Maximilian 34 and Tobias 31, grew up in Crishall House, the family seat where Gwyneth Paltrow's 1996 Emma was filmed. Crishall is an 18th century Georgian house in Dorset with 50 cottages, a chapel, an ornamental lake, and a grand south facade with 28 windows. Martin's paternal grandmother, Anna Martin, was goddaughter to the late Queen Mother and a playmate of Princess Margaret, while her great grandfather was Captain Napier Scott Stuart. Is it Start? The third and final Baron Allington. Constance's mother, Virginie the Cellier, 63, is a psychotherapist. Her father, Napier Martin, a former page to Queen Elizabeth, was heir to the family's 115 million fortune. His sister Charlotte married Oswald Alexander Mosley, son of the leader of the British Union of Fascists, and Diana Mitford. Oswald Mosley, in 1996, Napier had an awakening. A voice told him to leave his inheritance and fly to Australia. He shaved his head, joined a group of indigenous people and had an out of body experience. Although he eventually returned to the UK, he passed the estate prematurely to Maximilian. In 2010, the family sold some of the contents of the house in an auction reported to have raised £12.5 million. And in 2013, they sold the house and its land to an American financier for an unknown price. It was originally put on the market for £100 million. On her Facebook page, Martin, known to friends as Toots, reminisced about naked picnics, siestas amid the hails, and tractor scoops at her childhood home. She studied at St. Mary's, Shaftesbury, an independent Roman Catholic boarding school for girls, which counts the author Sophie Kinsella and film director Martha Finis, sister of actor Ralph Fiennes, among its alumni. The school, which closed in 2020, charged boarders fees of more than £30,000, and it goes on with these kind of descriptions. Soon after completing her journalism studies, Martin began a course at East 15 Drama School in Essex. Her course, according to a fellow classmate, was paid for by a trust fund. She was just beautiful, full of life, very classmate said. But Martin changed, her friend said, and dropped out in 2016. Her course mate said that while they were studying together in an erratic relationship with a man they had never met. Around 2016, Martin started Gordon, East London. Born in Birmingham, Gordon is half to fly. He was UK around 2010 to the outskirts of North London. It is unclear when and how Martin and Gordon first met, etc., etc. Now, this is obviously being treated as a missing person, missing aristocrat story. Now, this is the piece about the dogs that reportedly killed a woman. And this heading is when pack mentality takes control, dogs revert to the wild. You can't control them. The killing of a woman by the pets she was walking in Surrey last week is likely to have stemmed from a fog of aggression. There are hundreds of cases a week in Britain of dog attacks involving people walking dogs. I have seen 5 incidents simply while walking my own dog in the past 18 months. I sometimes see a man who walks a pack of 5 or 6 huskies over which he has no control. They're all on straps or leads. And when he sees you, he goes into full panic and dives at trees until you get past. If they got leads, they would seriously injure me or my dog. All dogs react to circumstances, and that is natural. It is not bad or good, just the way they are. When you have a high aggression state, when a dog attacks another dog, you have stimulation and tension, which produces masses of adrenaline. Once an attack starts, if there are several dogs present, the others might start to join in, and you then get into what we call a fog of aggression. This can often lead to redirected aggression, etc., etc. Now, this is followed by a note about the writer Colin Tennant. He is a former police officer, director of the Cambridge Institute of Dog Behavior and Training, and chairman of the Canine and Feline Behavior Association. He has trained and assessed more than 25,000 dogs. So, and it is also bringing in reference to the COVID-19 lockdown, which hasn't helped, it says. Now, there is a piece about Hanif Qureshi. Let's see whether it's on this section or it's in another section. There's a big piece, of course, on the front page item about Johnson having a distant relation in Canada. It says the Prime Minister and the multimillionaire Canadian cousin who lent a hand. It says if Johnson has already been investigated over making inaccurate declarations about a previous holiday to Mustique, another Caribbean island, he was cleared of wrongdoing but criticized for failing to ascertain the correct details himself at the time. Parliamentary authorities and his fellow MPs are likely to take a dim view of any similar forgetfulness. Now, it is completely wrong to term a criminality, serial criminality, as forgetfulness. What happens with Johnson and his liabilities? Does he leave his body and disappear from his body and then loses his connection with the reality of his experiences? Why are they giving him this endless leniency on every crime he commits, every cruelty he perpetrates? Now they've got highlights on how many? One, two, three, four. One is the solving of money problem, the tilt at the top knob, gold wallpaper, the Johnson's jet off. How did they start this? This is a piece by Harry York and Gabriel Pogrand. And these are the people that are normally associated with the Sunday Times inside team, what used to be inside team. It's not that insightful anymore. Hasn't been for a long time. Boris Johnson was lying. Well, it's not lying like telling lies, but he's lying as lying down. Boris Johnson was lying on a sound lounger at a luxury villa in the Dominican Republic when news reached him that Liz Truss had been ousted. Johnson abandoned the holiday, swapped his Bermuda shorts for a suit, and hopped on an emergency flight back to London to canvass MPs on a potential comeback. While the campaign to regain his crown was short lived, the implications of his sojourn in the Caribbean may be longer lasting. The owner of the villa where he and his family stayed in is Sam Blythe, a multimillionaire Canadian and a distant relative. Blythe lent Johnson his villa, which he lets out at $55,000 a night for the holiday, and supported his lifestyle in Downing Street by acting as a guarantor for a credit facility of up to 800,000 pounds, available from February 2021. Although Johnson's salary as Prime Minister, 164,000 pounds, was 5 times the median UK salary, his lifestyle, including his divorce and childcare payments, meant it was not sufficient. Officials considered it extraordinary that Johnson was in such a precarious financial situation as to look to rely on another individual. Senior civil servants had conversations about the prospect of the Prime Minister being unable to pay his annual tax bill. Now, they're using this kind of words, unable. What about the people that are fined by lower courts and fined by local councils for minor defaults and arrears? How many people are evicted every single week for rent arrears? The Sunday Times doesn't recognize that as a phenomenon at all. So they're really treating the liar Johnson as the king of the world while showing him completely naked without any clothes. So, what about this lawyer that they're talking about? This is the inside team as well. And the inside team of this one, the name this piece about hacking on the bottom of this page written by David Davis has got a highlighted heading or subheading, says that India should be held to account. And there is a hacker, notorious hacker, criminal hacker in India called Aditya Jain. He's based in India, and his activities have been apparently uncovered by the Sunday Times inside team. Now, this is the piece on page 15 of the Sunday Times, headed Paralysis freed my father's creativity. Now, this is a piece about Hanif Qureshi, accompanied by a picture of him sitting along in the middle of his son and his wife. Now, let's see the caption. What is the caption saying? A fall left writer, Hanif Qureshi, unable to even hold a pen. His son, who now blogs for him, says his father is at war with his own body, but the words keeps coming. This is a piece by Josh Glancy and Liam Kelly. For Hanif Qureshi, his pen is like an extension of his body. For decades now, the author has been a fountain of words, novels, short stories, plays, screenplays have poured forth from the 68-year-old without fear or filter. Now, though, the writer of the Buddha of Suburbia and my beautiful laundrette cannot use his pen. He may never use it again. A fall in room at a hotel has left Qureshi paralyzed in all four limbs. His recovery is uncertain. What Qureshi does have is Siri, the virtual assistant on the phone, and his 29-year-old son, Carlo. His virtual and human companions have helped him blog about his experience on Twitter. What has emerged is a startling, almost unprecedented live chronicle of a man coming to terms with the complete transformation of his life and body. It's a page. It's a more than half a page given to Qureshi's position, and this contains, as he said in the tweet yesterday, a praise for Saitan Rushdie and a reference to Islam as Islamofascism, a reference by Qureshi to Muslims protesting against Saitan Rushdie being Islamofascist. So the piece ends with the paragraph. This weekend, Qureshi moved from the Gemelli Hospital to a rehab facility in Rome. And Carlo said that his family wanted him back in the UK as soon as possible. As many older writers do, Qureshi had slowed in recent years, the gush of words becoming a trickle. Now, though, Carlo says he is full of creative pep and energy because he's got something to say again. Now, what he said before this injury to his fingers, which I shall be referring to in another edition or in later editions, he was supporting Rushdie. Satan Rushdie was supported by many of the so-called intellectuals in the UK and in America. Hanif Qureshi was one of the more widely known supporters of Satan Rushdie in the 1980s and in the 1990s. And my confrontation with Qureshi took place at the Institute of Contemporary Arts. And I was using Qureshi's own words, his confession that he had lied. And this was one of the most rigorous confrontations. I accused Qureshi of lying, and he had nothing to say but plead to the so called liberals to witness what I was doing to him. And all I was doing was challenging him on his lying and challenging him to justify being a self confessed liar, justify any assumption that he had any moral or ethical claim or justification to be taken seriously as a moral defender of the Satan Rushdie. This was Hanif Qureshi. My other rigorous exchange at the Institute of Contemporary Arts included my exchange with the fascist Ayub Khan's bureaucrat in chief, Altaf Gauhar, and the UK racist William Shawcross, and a racist from The Guardian. I mean, he's not close to The Guardian, but the racist in The Guardian who actually had some so called journalistic coverage about my fight against the racist UK Home Office, where Marlene Rees was in situ in the 1970s. But there were others. And I don't think the Institute of Contemporary Arts is holding these kind of events anymore. It might be doing some, but not in the way that I took part in them. So that's the Rushdie kind of promoter. And if Qureshi, having a fall in Italy and losing the use of his limbs, his fingers, And there is a tribute which is typical of Fleet Street, all very positive. Tribute to Jeff Beck, who died last week, was one of rock's great X-Men. But is there still a place for ego-fueled soloing in an era of short attention spans? Dan Cairns asks whether the shred is dead. And reading all the stuff that this Sunday Times carries, it is impossible to see the relevance of the journalism. There are three editorials. The middle one is headed Iran's latest atrocity is yet another warning to the West. Now, that is clearly a racist, West-centric view of the world. It derecognizes Asia, Africa, most of the world, except the little bit called the West. Let's see what it says about the West. Iran provided the latest deadly evidence of the reversion to rogue state status yesterday with the execution of the British Iranian national Ali Reza Akbari. Now, he's not British American at all, British Iranian at all, he's Iranian British. The Islamic theocracy has stepped up the killing of its citizens since public anger erupted over the death of Masha Amini in the custody of the morality police. 4 protesters have been executed so far, and thousands have been jailed. Akbari's killing seems in part designed to send a message to the West. And what is the West? Is it defining the West? It is including the USA and Israel as being the defined West. Now that is self-defeating and contradictory. For a start, the execution of this man is not an exception. Any number of Iranian people are being given the death penalty by Iran, ordinary people, nothing to do with the protests, but other crimes or offenses. And the fact that the Sunday Times or the typical Western media treat those as not happening shows that they are hypocritical to an extent that is only definable as highly criminal and collusive. The media also maintained complete silence while Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe was being detained in Iran. And it absolutely never mentioned until the very last phase. It never mentioned the media, the Fleet Street, never mentioned the fact that actually Nazanin, Zaghari Ratcliffe, was being held not for any crimes that she had committed, but as an example, as a pressure, as a lever to put pressure on the United Kingdom to pay the debt of 400 million or so owed to Iran by the UK. Criminal complicity and collusion with the genocidist, murderous, fascist regime in Iran. These are the descriptions of the regime by the British media, which was maintaining silence over why Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe was being held. And what is this woman on the Sunday Times who is who writes as if she is the queen or she is the genuine kind of wife, the princess Camilla Long. She is like another one, another on the Sunday Times is called Cavendish, Camilla Cavendish or something. These are the ones that write where actually are the wives of the princess, the wives the princess never had. At least she's got one thing right, that Johnson is a liar who is plotting. So there's a piece about Lisa Marie Presley. That is the piece that Camilla Long has written. And Dominic Lai's son is attacking Harry and is saying that Harry's claim that much is unexplained about Diana's death is not true. Well, what does Dominic Lyson know about that? He is a paid propagandist for the establishment and its cover up. Lyson is saying that the inquest that took place with Diana's so called friend, Rosa, whatever, being reduced to tears by Mohammed Fayad's lawyer, Michael Mansfield. And they claim that, Fayad's claim that MI6, is it MI5 or MI6, MI6 murdered Diana. Fayad, owner of the Paris Ritz, who had actually approved the use of his security man, Henry Paul, as a sort of getaway driver for his son Dodi and Diana, claimed they had been murdered by MI6. He said this was on the orders of the Duke of Edinburgh, Harry's grandfather, because Diana was pregnant with what he called Dodi's Muslim child. Rosa had infuriated Fayad by writing about how she knew Diana could not have been pregnant at the time. Yet Fayad's self serving fantasies are still widely believed. Harry only furthers their potency by telling Bradley that there is a lot unexplained about Diana's death. But Dominic Lyson says there really isn't. And I wish Harry, traumatized though he is by his mother's death, had been able to recognize that his wife's life was in no way at risk from repress if they had stayed in this country. He had much to offer, certainly more from this morbid misery memoir. No, reading again. Certainly more than this morbid misery memoir. Now, this is a kind of twisted recognition of Harry's existence by a member of the propaganda arm of the establishment. They never straight away acknowledge Harry's existence or his rights.